Situations and conversations with Trey Renee. Real situations, real conversations. Empowering the community leads to elevation. Entertainment and education, no better time than now. Pure enlightenment for the crowd. This is Situations and Conversations with Trey Renee.
Today on Situations and Conversations, we're honored to spotlight an organization that's not just making an impact, it's transforming lives. Word is Bond, a Portland-based nonprofit dedicated to empowering young Black men through leadership development, civic engagement, and real-world experiences that build confidence, character, and community. In a world where young Black men are too often unheard, this organization is helping them reclaim their voice, their purpose, and their future. Their word is their power and their bond. I have the privilege of speaking with the man behind it all, founder and executive director, Lakayana Drury. That's the situation, and the conversation starts now. Finally, in the same room, in the same space, and having a conversation with the man of the hour. Lakayana, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Trey. How are you?
I'm great. I'm honored to have you here.
Absolutely. I think this is great. I love the setup, the space.
Thank you.
Shout out to the other Trey for organizing and putting this together.
Right. Like, it takes a village. And I know you know this better than anyone because you have this whole organization that we want to highlight today.
Absolutely.
Word is Bond.
Yes.
Let's get into it. Tell me about the organization and what drove you to be a part.
Well, it's funny you said it takes a village to raise a child, because that's literally what I said on Monday. We had a benefit dinner for our upcoming trip to Ghana. It's our third annual trip that we're going. And what I said was literally, it takes a village to raise a child. But the question I often think about is, what does it take to raise a Black man? And that is a question that has been central to my life and is central to the mission statement of Word is Bond, which is, what if young Black men were empowered to their fullest potential? And that narrative of what does it take to empower young Black men is central to my life. Growing up in Madison, Wisconsin, very similar to Portland.
Madison, Wisconsin. Oh, yeah, you're going to have to take us back and walk us through this.
So we can go all the way back to the early 90s.
Okay.
Madison, Wisconsin is where you find me. I'm not gonna rap. So I was born in Washington, D.C. My mom was finishing up a master's program. And she was, I'm writing a book, and one of the things that I say in the book is that one of the first things I learned was about running. And both of my parents were running from a lot of things. And my mom, being in DC, was running from a lot of her problems and challenges that she was facing in her life. Growing up in Wisconsin in a predominantly white, Irish, Catholic community where there were no Black people.
Right.
Certainly, growing up in the early 60s, there was no one named Lakayana.
Okay, I can see that.
Or even for that matter, Makiba, which is my sister's name.
Okay.
So how does a white woman end up giving birth to a biracial Black man in Washington, D.C.? The other half of that equation is my father, who was also running from, literally had to run because he grew up in South Sudan, which is right below Egypt in Northeast Africa, excuse me. And it's been a perpetual civil war since he was born in the 50s. And to this day is still in war. And so both of them kind of, I sometimes liken it to like star-crossed lovers, right? Two individuals with very passionate and complicated souls that met for a time. And I was the flower that bloomed out of all of that.
I love that. Is so beautiful and poetic, but it's almost like they were running, but they ran into each other.
And literally crashed into each other, and you could say, yeah. And so it was a beautiful but tumultuous relationship.
Okay.
And for both of them, I think it challenged them in a lot of ways. And what I feel like I'm the like I said, the flower that bloomed out of that. But I wasn't just this I would never say that I'm like a rose per se. I was a flower that took time to develop.
Okay.
And that development and that need for nourishment is what drives me in the work that I do now with Word is Bond, and understanding, going back to that phrase, it takes a village to raise a child. What does it take to raise a young black man? And I didn't meet my dad till I was 10 years old. And
So you have this whole organization that's centered around what it takes to raise a young black man,
Yeah.
based off of, I'm assuming, some experiences
100%.
that you had growing up,
Yeah.
where you weren't so sure, because here
Yeah.
you are, this biracial kid,
Yeah.
haven't even met the black side, right, of
Yep.
you really until you're 10.
Yep.
And by that time, you already did quite a bit of growing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so how did you get here?
So that question, how did you get here, has followed me everywhere I've gone. I've went back and lived in Washington, D.C. I lived in Beijing, China for a year. I went to Liberia in 2013, and everybody asked that similar question, how did you end up here? And there's just this like force that's like in me, that's like guiding me, but like just driving me. And I don't know what in 2014, I was unemployed, and I was on unemployment, and I somehow got it in my mind that I wanted to see like the Pacific Northwest, but I didn't know it as that. I just knew it as like this part of the country that I hadn't seen. And so I convinced two of my friends from college at the time and my brother to get in my mom's Honda, and we were going to drive for 2 weeks across the country with a tent and see the Badlands, see Yellowstone, see this city called Portland, Oregon.
Right. Okay.
This city called Seattle, Washington. And then someone said, well, if you're over there, you might as well go to Vancouver, Canada. I said, where's that? And they said, it's 3 hours from Seattle. So that became the route. And a friend of mine at the time ended up coming back here to go to grad school based off that trip. And so I came out, and I've been here ever since.
Wow, you did. Okay.
Yeah. So 2016, I came back and kind of on a whim, and yeah.
And planted.
Yeah.
Okay. And now we have you here as Word is Bond.
Yes.
And you know what I'm hearing, you do have this like sense of seeing the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why, right? You say there's just this force, but that's also part of what you do through your program.
Yeah,
Let's talk
100%,
about this
100%.
Black Homecoming Expedition.
Yeah.
That's a whole traveling experience.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So the Black Star Homecoming Expedition is a 2-week leadership trip to Ghana in West Africa for the final year of our program. So we taking young men out of their freshman year of high school.
Okay, that's where they start
That's
in
where
your
they start.
program. Okay.
In Portland, Oregon. And by the end of it, they're in Ghana and West Africa for 2 weeks on a leadership trip that includes visiting some of the historic sites, the slave dungeons where individuals were kept captive right before they were sold, the rivers where they were bathed in after being marched from the interior of the country, and they were forced to be bathed in order to make them look appealing to be sold.
Sure.
We visit schools, rural and urban, so they're able to see schools that look similar to what they go to here, and they're able to see schools that might not even be recognizable as a school. They give out supplies, they meet with ministers, and it's a whole identity experience for this 2 weeks. I always say, if for those who've never been on it, if it's like you're in a real life Coach Carter movie, like you dealing with these young men and grappling with their real life experiences and watching them be challenged and work together and challenge each other. And by the end of it, it like all works out. And so with our program, by doing this expedition and the other 2 years of our program, by the time they graduate high school, so the guys that are going this year, before they're 18, will have been to Africa.
That's incredible.
And that's a huge milestone, especially for their identity, especially for so many pieces, and to have that blue passport, right? And the doors that unlocks. Give me a passport even over well, I might not go as far as to say this, but give me a passport over a high school diploma. A high school diploma is based on a merit system of academics, which to my own, I'm a testament of the frivolousness of that, because I graduated high school with a 2.3 GPA. but we use those GPAs and that education system to measure where people are going to go.
Right.
So based on that GPA, I shouldn't be the founder and executive director of a nonprofit. I shouldn't be Portland 40 under 40 or executive of the year. And that's what that GPA told me about myself. And so when you look at that compared to a passport and you're able to get the stamp and you're able to unlock all these doors and go all across the world, give me that any day of the week.
I love that. I got chills because I've bought into that merit system, right? And how it's supposed to tell you about who you are, how smart you are, how successful you'll be.
Right.
But in essence, it's really what's in you.
Yeah.
And what's poured into you during the formative years, which is what I'm hearing Word is Bond is really about. Those formative years. So these young Black men enter the program in as freshman year of high school.
Yeah.
And this is a continuous program. Once you're in, you're in it all the way through your high school career.
Yeah.
And it culminates into this trip.
Yeah.
Why did you think that trip was so important?
It was in there since I was a first year teacher at Rosemary Anderson High School, which is where I started this program. And I was given the opportunity by Joe McFerrin to shape a program.
Shout out to Joe.
Shout out to Joe. He, I think being a leader means giving that leadership opportunity and taking that chance on someone else. And he took that chance on me. And I formed Word is Bond from that opportunity. And there was a couple questions that we were grappling with. Should it just be young Black men? In my mind, in all my years of experience, it was a no-brainer. Because young Black men, there was never a program just for us, just because we are us. It was always conditional. And that's why I say Word is Bond is unconditional. Because it's not a program for young Black men because of anything else other than you're a young Black man. It's
That's
not
all that qualifies you.
It's not because you're in detention or you're the top shiny 10% Black youth that are, with the 4.0 GPAs. And it's not just for the ones that are in detention. It's for all of them. And if you are that, then you qualify. And in all my experience and all my years, we never had programs just for us because of that reason. Or it's because you're on free and reduced lunch.
Right.
Or some other negative, detrimental factor that they determine, they being the dominant culture systems. And so I was really adamant and unapologetic in that. And once I was given that opportunity to have the control to say who gets determined, I was like, yep, that's what we're doing. And I'll give one more shout out to Tony Hobson Sr. at SEI, because we had this meeting where we were going into and we were going to decide, is it just young Black men? Is it youth of color? Is it young men of color? How are we doing it? And I asked him, like, what do you think? And he said, if you feel like you should be serving young Black men, then that's what you should stick with. And I hung up that phone call, went in that meeting and said, this is what we're doing.
And you're very clear.
Yeah.
Focused.
Absolutely.
Determined. I get all of that coming off of you.
Yes.
And so how has the community's response been to Word is Bond?
The community, that's a large group. For the Black community, they get it. For the larger community, for a while, there's a lot of questions. Why young Black men? What about everybody else, right? As soon as we create something for us,
how many times are we going to get that sort of question where it's like, how come it can't be everybody?
Right.
Why because America's not about everybody. It wasn't founded for everybody.
Right.
So if we don't do some things for ourselves, how are we supposed to advance and feel good about ourselves at the same time?
Right. And so that's a question that we grappled with a lot. And again, I was unapologetic and we educated people. And for the people that didn't want to be educated, we just kept moving. And it wasn't until it really quieted down when George Floyd was murdered. When George Floyd was murdered, a lot of people stopped asking why young Black men.
Let's talk about this article.
Yes.
That you have in Blackout.
You
talked about George Floyd, and I believe, aren't you featured in here?
I'm featured in there. Shout out to Donovan Scribes, who organized this. He said, hey, I'm putting this periodical together, capturing 12 essays reflecting on the murder of George Floyd. And you work with young Black men and with youth. I want you to write something from the youth perspective. The murder of George Floyd, there is a million things I could say about that, right? It's like, well, where do you even want me to start? But once I sat down and thought about it, the experience that came to my mind was a time that I took one of the young men in our program and we went to get flowers for his mother.
Okay.
And that formed the essay title, Dreams in a Vase with No Water. And it is about this experience with this young man who his future, like mine, but with different circumstances, is a question mark. And his mother is seeking support the way my mom was with me and looking to community organizations to help. And I got this young man who is brilliant, and we are trying to support him in his journey. And so the essay is about an experience with him and buying flowers in the larger context of what it means to be a young Black man in Portland, Oregon.
I mean, I want to be a young Black man right now in Portland, Oregon, to get served this way and be supported, and then to have this amazing expedition, this homecoming expedition. I can't wait to hear about how this goes. And please do let me know if an older Black woman can ever be a chaperone on said trip in some way, shape, or form, or maybe a sister organization, because I think that young and old could benefit from such an experience.
100%.
Thank you so much for being here. Real quick, tell everybody how they can support you and where and how, all the things.
Wordisbond.org is our website. You can make a tax-deductible donation to help support our trip. And on our website, you can get involved as a volunteer. If you've got a son or a brother or a young man in your life that would benefit from our program, even if they don't qualify at age 15, there's other resources that we can provide and support. We do walking tours. We have a whole bunch of resources and ways to get involved. So mywordisbond.org is the way to go. Our trip is taking off on June 28th. We're bringing the photographer and videographer Jason Hill, who will be doing a documentary. So this fall, look out for that.
Love it.
I just appreciate being here.
Absolutely. I appreciate you and all the work that you're doing. All the best. And you let us know how we can ever help outside of what you already shared. Anything, the platform is yours. Thank you, Lakayana.
Thank you.
It's time for Hey Trey. This is where I like to turn it up a bit and dig into those juicy situations you're having conversations about. Today, it's all about the viral trend of men pranking each other by simply calling to say goodnight. Ooh, are you ready for this hot topic?
I'm ready.
Okay. I have Lakayana still hanging with us. Taylor is here and my girl Abibad. And I'm going to talk about this crazy trend that's going around where it seems as though men are playing around with other men by calling them to say goodnight. And it has stirred this whole conversation around, well, actually it stirred a lot of laughs. I know I've laughed at a lot of the reactions, but I'm like, what is this about? And so I thought, okay, we got two brothers over here, and I want to hear from you guys about what is the big deal about saying good night to your brother? Is that weird? Is it really that weird? Okay, Lock, let me start with you, Lock.
His face was like,
is it weird? I would say, I think it, so it's funny. I was on the phone with we were working on the website till 12 a.m. last night. Okay. And, we were on the phone with another one of my friends and talking about some business stuff. And at the end of the call, I said, "Sweet dreams" to him, just as a joke. And my other friend, he brought it up. He was like, "Hey, you've been seeing that trend?" And it was kind of what I did. And my other friend, he just kind of laughed it off. But I think what it is at its core is not to make this super serious, but it's a disconnection of masculinity and the ability to show emotion.
Yeah.
Okay.
That definitely makes sense.
That was well said.
Yes.
What about you, Tay?
I think
laughing already.
As an isolated occurrence, if he would just hit me up, 'cause he was my friend, and just be like, "Yeah, what's up, Tay? That was good, bro." And he was like, "Yeah, I just want to call to tell you good night." I'll be kind of thrown off because all right, where's this?
Right. Is there something else?
Yeah,
right. When's the money ass gonna be?
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. But no, seriously, I think it's more so just people it's kind of jarring just because it's, impromptu. But to Lakayana's point, I think there is kind of a disconnect in terms of, some people just not feeling comfortable saying, I love you as a brother, or, good night. But like when I go out, I always make sure my friends get home safe, because I know, even though we shouldn't, sometimes, guys get one or too many, so I just want to make sure you made it home safe.
Okay, well, that's cool. Like a lot of times, I can hear people say, "Oh, text me when you get home. Make sure you get home all right." Between men, right? But there is this long pause in all of the videos and things that I've seen when the black men say, they may start off a little bit like, "Hey, what's up? What's up?" Oh yeah, man. Getting ready to shut it down. Been a long day. All right, then. Somebody. So I was just calling to say good night.
You're
like long pause, and I'm watching the videos like I'm leaning in like what's gonna happen, and then almost always it's like, what? The response is always a question, like, did you say what I thought you said?
right.
And then when they clarify, yeah, man, I just shut it down, and then they don't throw in a nighty night. Or the sweet dreams, right? Have you seen these videos?
No, I haven't. So the fact is, like, it's funny because, like, my son, he's a 12-year-old, right? So, like, he always says, like, good night. Oh, what's up, man? Those type of things where you greet each other. But, like, I think the younger generation that have this, I think they are more in tune with their, I will say, more feminine side.
Okay.
Or nurturing side.
Well, we can call
I think
it that.
so too. Like, I'm a single mom too. So, my son kind of, has this full understanding and awareness about himself.
Okay.
I try to really, enthrall that into him. But at the same time, him having that balance of understanding, like, be attentive to your friends. You know what I mean? Make sure that they're okay. Like, because some of these kids, they're going through whatever they're going through in their personal lives, just checking in. And sometimes, depending on, the generation, they will think that that's a little off. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, he will have his coach and be like, why y'all giving daps? Don't be touching each other. You know what I mean? It was just like, no, it's love. You know what I mean? So, showing, our next generation, our boys, to understand that it's okay to show love towards each other.
I want to talk to a Thomas behind the scenes of Thomas Chung Films. Always behind the scenes here. He's not always on camera, but when he is, it's so profound. So Thomas, would you be uncomfortable if one of your guy friends just called you and was like, all right, man, I'm just calling to say goodnight. Sweet dreams.
Well, my group of friends, we're really close. So we like to hug each other. We like to, every time it's a dap and a hug. If you don't hug, then something's wrong, right? But we're very like family, like, we talk to each other, say, I love you all the time, miss you, all those things. So if one of my friends called me and said, hey, Thomas, good night, I'm like, good night.
Oh, right away. Look at
sweet
that.
Dreams. Or even like sweet dreams. Or I would try to even make it even awkwarder. Like, oh, you want to come with that energy? I could do the exact same thing too. So we're a tight-knit group.
Okay. Yeah. More family-like.
Yeah, more family-like.
Interesting. So. Okay, so let me ask you this then real quick. If it was a family member who was a man called you and said, just wanted to say goodnight, would it be different than a friend?
I'm not gonna hold you. I think if it was even a family member that was a woman that just like called me out the blue and was like good night, I'll be kind of thrown off. Not that the gesture or like the phrase good night is weird. It's just like, where's this? It just will feel random.
Yeah, like where's this coming from?
Is this
more that you need to tell me?
Yeah.
Right. Because you just came out of the blue to say good night. I could definitely see that being a situation to talk about, right? Because you were like, some people are scared to even talk about, their woes in life. So they feel like, hey, like if I just check on, see, how they're doing.
Especially if I ain't heard from you all day.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, I guess so. Like that's just that's the awkward part, right? It's like, obviously it's been this running joke on social media where people they're calling each other out of the blue, right? And like, oh yeah, okay. It's like, yeah, I'd be like that too, maybe. Like, but be bad if you called me and were like, okay, girl, I'm about to shut it down.
Yeah.
I'm just calling to say goodnight. I'd be like, okay, girl, good night. Yeah. What you got going on tomorrow?
But now that you say it though, if my mom did it, it might be just because of their personalities. If my mom did it, I probably wouldn't be thrown off. But if my dad did it, I'd be like,
Yeah.
So what's up with
See?
this?
Right.
Period.
Because that's really at the
know?
base of it what it is.
Yeah.
So here's my suggestion for Word is Bond.
Mm-hmm.
In curriculum, let's practice saying good night to each other.
Yes.
Okay.
I like it. Thank you, guys. This was lovely. I love it. I love these sorts of conversations because I think it's super important to kind of
Yes.
just break some things
Yes.
down to the smallest compounds sometimes. Even something as lighthearted as saying good night.
Right.
Good night.
It's the small words that matter.
Exactly.
That's what's up.
Mm.
All right, family, that's our show for today. Thank you so much for hanging with us. I love and appreciate you for it. God willing, we'll be back next week for more. In the meantime, make sure you take excellent care of yourselves. That's the only way you'll be able to take care of anyone else, which is our mission. When you think me, think we. When you think you, think too. See ya. Special thanks to our presenting sponsor, Oregon Health Authority, helping people and communities achieve optimum physical, mental, and social well-being. And thanks to our supporting partners, Loiza, a community-centered event space in the heart of Northeast Portland, and Adorn Boutique for my fabulous wardrobe. Situations and Conversations is a Trey Renee production in conjunction with Thomas Chung Films.